right, let's open our Bibles to Genesis 37, please. Genesis chapter 37. If you're following in the book, we're on page 68. That's not right. We're on page 75. You know, I'm going to go back to what I originally said. I've got my book turned to the wrong page. Actually, we're on page 68. Still Genesis 37. Certainly appreciate the fact that we're able to be here this morning. Beautiful day. Looking forward to our study, and then as we continue at 10 o'clock with the congregation all in here, we'll be worshiping God as a group, and looking forward to that as well. Let me mention Marguerite again this morning. Marguerite, she continues to decline as far as her health is concerned, and also she just needs all the encouragement that she can get from everybody. So if you could call, send a card, go by and see her, I know that would help her. And of course, there are two other ladies there as well. If you go by, you can get a 3-in-1 at the same time. But let's keep Marguerite and others in our prayers. We're glad that Joanne is able to be with us this morning. She's back there now, but she's here, and we're happy that she's here. Let's have a prayer, please. God and Father in heaven, we thank you so very much for your love, your care, for the forgiveness that comes because of your love and because of Christ. And we pray, Father, that as we study this morning, that you would please help us to handle your word properly, to understand what it teaches, and then to see the application in our lives so that we can be the kind of people that you want us to be, and we can help teach others as well. Thank you so much for all who are here. So thankful for those who are elderly, even though their health problems that they have, they make the effort to be here because they love you. And I pray that all of us are here this morning because of our love for you. In the name of Christ we pray. Amen. All right, we're on page 37. If you haven't checked your birthdays, you need to check it, because we've got people having birthdays left and right. Some are stomping on it today, and then we've got somebody else going to be really stomping on it on Tuesday. So we're thrilled that we're all able to be here and have the health to allow us to be here. We began last Wednesday night as class concluded here in chapter 37. And the chapter just begins now. Jacob dwelt in the land where his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. This is the history of Jacob. And the interesting thing is, of course, you have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but as it says, this is the history of Jacob. What's primarily going to be talked about the rest of Genesis? We'll be talking about Joseph. And so Joseph is mentioned, and Joseph was Jacob or Israel's which son? He was a favorite one, that's exactly right. What number was he? He was number 11. He was the favorite son, and we see there in verse 3, Israel loved Joseph more than all his children. Now, he wasn't the last child that he had, but he loved him because he was an older man. In his old age is what the Bible says. And he made him a tunic of many colors. Well, Favoritism, as we've said, creates all kinds of problems. And those of you who are the favorite child, like me, I know that your brothers and sisters, they really get upset. I see other people who realize they're the favorite child too. I'm not the favorite child. But it says when their brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, so they could see. And that's what happens with favoritism. Others are able to see what's going on, and the brothers are able to see that. And it says they hated him. Not only did they hate him, but it says they could not speak peaceably to him. Now, I'm going to tell you, that's some animosity. That is hatred. And some of it is not brought on by Joseph. And we're going to see, and he shares some things that maybe he didn't have to, but he does. And that doesn't draw his brothers any closer to him. But they hate him. And then verse 5 tells us that he has a dream. He tells, we'll read him telling about them in the next couple of verses, but it says they hated him even more. That's hard. That's hard for me to, if I hate, I don't hate anybody. There's some people that I like better than I like others, or I like being around better than I like others. And I've had people mistreat me, but I don't hate them because of that. I feel sorry for somebody that conducts themselves in a way they shouldn't. But he tells them about the dream. Now, most of us are not farmers. Other than a garden farmer. Most of us, I'm going to be careful. Some probably did grow up on a farm. I did not grow up on a farm. But he talks about this dream. He says, there we were, binding sheaves in the field. What are sheaves? Okay. I got a picture of it right there. Just where they gather the stalks and the grain, and they put it together so it can typically dry out, and that way they can get the grain more easily. But he sees these, they're out in the field, they're binding these sheaves, and here is his sheaf, and he raises up, and what do the other boys' sheaves do? They bow down before him. Well, he shared that. And his brothers said to him, shall you indeed reign over us? Or shall you indeed have dominion over us? And the answer to both of those questions is yes. And then it says at the end of verse 8, so they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Again, I'm trying to wrap my head around the envy, the jealousy, because of the favoritism, they hate him. And then he has this dream and they hate him, and he tells them about it. It says they hate him even more. But
they've also had the family, the wives, they probably had animosity even before. And in that culture, the older gets all the blessings and prestige. Joseph's pretty far down the line there.
he certainly is. Things didn't go like it would normally go. And that's an excellent point. Joseph is pretty far, down the line. And so he dreams another dream. And he tells it to his brothers. And this time he sees the sun, moon, and the stars. The sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowing down to him. Now, what does Daddy think about that? Daddy's saying, wait a minute. Are we gonna bow down to you? And as we continue the story, we see that's exactly what takes place. What is this dream that you've had, that you have dreamed? Verse 10. Shall your mother and I and your brothers indeed come to bow down in the earth before you? And then it says his brothers envied him. we're going to see, but I want to just talk about it for a minute. When there is hatred in a person's heart towards someone else, when there's envy in a person's heart towards someone else, what is a person likely or might very well do? Hurt, even kill. And we're going to see that is what the initial thinking is. Let's just get him and let's kill him. Tim, you started to say something.
I was just going to say, when it gets to that point, there is a lashing out in some form or fashion. It is almost inevitable, unless there's something that transpires to change one of the parties.
That's exactly right. And so Israel, the father, says to his son Joseph, your brothers are down. He does it in a question. Your brothers are down at Shechem, and they're feeding the flock. And I'm going to send you. And of course, Joseph said, I'm ready to go. You go and see if it is well with your brothers, and everything is going well with the flocks, and you bring word back to me. And so he sent him away. I've just underlined the valley of Hebron, and he went to Shechem. I've got another map I'll put up there in a minute. And so here Joseph goes. I don't know what the disposition of Joseph is as he's going. Do you think he realized that his brothers hated him? Or they envied him? Sure. I think that there had to be some. And so Joseph, he goes. Now, he's still a young boy, a teenager. And so he goes, and he finds a certain man, it says, and he asks him whether, and he tells him. When I read that, without trying to be funny, I read that they have departed from here, for I've heard them say, let's go to Dothan. And I always think of where we live south. But that's not the Dothan that we're thinking about. Here's the map that I was that I said I had. That purple arrow pointing down is the area of Dothan, not far from Shechem, and in the land of Canaan. So he goes down to Dothan to find his brothers, and he finds them there. I don't know that they were looking for him, but I know this. They saw him before he got there. And so what they decided is, let's just kill him. Listen, I've had some spats with my brother, my older brother especially, but I never thought about killing him. Well, maybe I did. Not in reality, I didn't. I was just hoping he wouldn't kill me. But here they are, let's just kill him. Look, this dreamer is coming. And not only did they have the idea of killing him, they had thought beyond that, because they knew he had come from home and was expected to go back home. And verse 20 says, let us now kill him and cast him into some pit, and we shall say, some wild beast has devoured him. We shall see what will become of his dreams. We'll snuff him out, and we'll see if we'll bow down before him. You're right. They have it all figured out, they think. All figured out. And which child was Reuben, number-wise? He was the oldest, number one. Reuben hears about that, and he says, let's not kill him. Now, I like that. Let's not kill him. I don't know what his thinking was beyond that, but let's don't kill him. Let's don't shed any blood. Let's just put him in a pit. That doesn't sound very intriguing either, does it? If I understand some of the pits, it wasn't just a hole that you step into and step out. It was something that you were thrown into or fell into, and then you needed help. You just couldn't get out on your own. Will take his coat, deliver him out of their hands, and bring him back to his father. Let me read that again. Verse 22, Reuben says, shed no blood, but cast him into the pit, which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, that he might deliver him out of their hands and bring him back to the father. So, we're going to cast him in a pit, but Reuben's thinking ahead too. And his thinking is, I'll rescue him. I'll take him out of the pit. So Reuben, he goes away. Got ahead of myself. Verse 23. They stripped Joseph of his tunic. They took him, cast him into a pit. It was empty. There was no water. They sat down to eat a meal. Then they lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead. When you think of Ishmaelites, what do you think of? Ishmael. That's right. Here were the people of Ishmael, the Ishmaelites, with their camels bearing spices, balm, and myrrh on their way to carry them down to Egypt. And I understand that area or that region that comes down through Canaan, that was a passageway to Egypt and back, and a lot of merchants and traders would come along and buy and sell and take things down into Egypt to buy and sell as well. And so it says they're on their camels, they're bearing spices, balm, myrrh to Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers, what profit is there if we kill him? And then we conceal his blood. There's a better plan. It's not going to help us to kill him. So what we'll do is just sell him. This is where I jumped ahead. Verse 28 says, then Midianite traders passed by, so the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. Was that a good price for a healthy young man? No. That was not a good price for a healthy young man. You get that much or more for a slave, but here is a young 17-year-old man, and they sell him for 20 shekels of silver. Well, Reuben comes back to the pit, and Joseph's not there. And obviously he's upset. The Bible says he tore his clothes. He went back to his brothers, and he's just basically said, Joseph's not there anymore. Where shall I go? Do you think Reuben may have felt a special responsibility, perhaps?
He's the oldest.
Yeah, he's the oldest. He was the oldest. And really, whatever plan had been thought of, what could he have done and what really should he have done? Well, we're just not going to do that. We're not going to do that. This is one of our brothers. We're not going to do that. But again, when you've got all this hatred and envy and jealousy building up, that's what takes place. And so they can go back and help Dad to understand what has taken place. Really what hasn't taken place, but there's deceit. It's not the first time we've seen deceit. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and we can start and just name a bunch of just deceit. They take a goat, kill the goat, dipped his tunic in the blood, and then they brought it to their father. And of course, you lie when you're trying to cover up something. We have found this. Excuse me, I think I'm going to sneeze. Do you know whether it's your son's tunic or not? Sounds clever, doesn't it? I mean, here they know full well. And they know that Dad is going to know full well that this belongs to Joseph. And it says, verse 33, that he recognized it. It is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Without doubt, Joseph is torn to pieces. But what they intended for him to think, that's exactly what he thought, because they had set it up to look like that's exactly what had taken place. Joseph tore his clothes, put sackcloth on his waist, and mourned for his son many days. I wonder what the boys were thinking at this time as they're watching their daddy. Now, he's an old man, and they're watching their daddy weeping, mourning over this youngest son at the time, who they envied. And it says he refused to be comforted. And he says, for I shall go down into the grave to my son in mourning. And you know, I can't imagine. So the Midianites, they take him down into Egypt and they sell him to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh. I'm going to click over and I'm going to come back. Now let's go back. And I want any comments or thoughts and even lessons that we can learn from this event here in chapter 37.
Just the turmoil that showing partiality to a child over others has caused, because it happened with Isaac or Rebekah, and, you know,
That's right.
each one of them favoring one of the sons, and then they carry it on, even though Jacob would have seen what that caused in
Right.
his life when he was growing up. So it's just, you know, you don't do that.
There had been strife between the wives anyway, all along, you know, Leah coming first and then Rachel. And so the enmity has started, what, 20 years ago?
And you know, it's interesting, and I appreciate those comments. It's interesting that a lot of times what happens in this family, and sometimes especially if it's not good, sometimes carries over to the next family and sometimes carries over. Now, it doesn't have to, but I'm just saying that's typically what you see. And favoritism brings nothing but heartache and turmoil. Heartache and turmoil. Now, favoritism not just among family members, but what about the Lord? Does he show favorites? There's no partiality with him. It doesn't matter if you're male or female, or if it doesn't matter what nation you're from, it doesn't matter what color you are. We're all one in his sight. There's no partiality with God, and there should not be any partiality with us. What else can we see or learn in this chapter?
They had been influenced by the Canaanites, by non-Shechem, and people there that they had been around.
Okay. I think there had been some influence that obviously was not good, Tim.
You know, it shows the coldness of these other children to let their father suffer the way that he did and just show no animosity. I mean, or
No feelings, or you're right, regrets.
That is, to me, that was cold.
Some of these brothers were half-brothers.
No, you're right.
Not full-blooded brothers.
You're right.
They may not have the attachment to Joseph as Reuben and one or two others.
Right. I think that's plays a part into it.
When we are partial to somebody else, not only does it hurt that person because people don't like them, don't like you either, because you're showing partiality. So
That's
there's two people that they don't care for,
yeah.
or they hold grudges against, the one that's showing the partiality and the one that receives the partiality.
Okay.
Jacob believed a lie. He truly believed that his son was dead, even though he wasn't.
Okay.
You can believe lies too.
What Sylvia said was Jacob believed a lie. And he thought it was the truth. And he was deceived. And we can be deceived too. Matter of fact, the Bible talks about being deceived and believing a lie. So we need to be careful. Now, I think we all understand why he thought, but he was lied to, and he believed it. In his mind, his son was dead, and he would not see him again.
To add to Sylvia's comment, what Jacob believed produced in him the same emotional response and feeling as it would have had it been the truth. And that is a great cautionary, this is a great cautionary illustration of why, simply because we feel very strongly about something, that really has nothing directly to do with whether it's accurate or not, because believing an error here produced the same feeling that it would have had it been the truth. We have to remember Jacob's emotional state here. He's nervous as he can be as this whole chapter begins. Think about, where have the brothers gone to shepherd the flock? Shechem. What happened the last time they were there? I mean, this was the slaughter that he said, you've made us odious. And why the brothers went there to shepherd the flock, I have no idea. But it seems like the worst possible place to go. And so it's natural that he's really nervous, and it's no wonder he sends Joseph to check on the brothers, because he hadn't heard from them for a while and what's going on. And so he's at edge that he's possibly losing some of his sons here. And then when they come back and the one that he's lost is the one that he sent to check on them, which has been his favorite, although Benjamin quickly takes that spot. He's an emotional wreck to start with. And then the worst possible outcome so far as he can conceive of, it's no wonder that it's interesting the text says he refused to be comforted. He was not hearing it from anybody. He was going to mourn this, period.
Good observation.
Jacob hadn't talked to him about God, how to work together, be unity and all of that. So he really was at fault for not, more than one thing for being religious, but he hadn't talked to him about God.
I think that's a good point, Patsy, and what I think of is this, and we've talked about it a little bit before, but who is responsible for, who's the head of the family? The father. And there are some very heavy responsibilities. They're not responsibilities that can't be handled. And that's not, for men, sometimes I've seen men and, they're the head of the house. Well, sometimes I wish I wasn't the head of the house. Now, I don't have that choice. I don't have that choice, but I'm just saying sometimes decisions that have to be made are not pleasant. Everybody's not going to like them. But that's who God has placed in charge. Not to mistreat any of the family, wife or any of the children. But it starts at the top, is where it starts. And it has worked its way down to the point that these other boys are ready to kill him and would have had not these Ishmaelites, Midianites had come along, unless Reuben had gotten there to save him before. What else is there? Is there anything else we can see about this? I just want to say this, what Frank said about being emotional. When we're emotional, is that a good time to try to decide something? It's not. If we're emotional and our children have done something that's wrong and we're very emotional, let me tell you, that's not the time. You may just have to say, you go and I'm going to go and I'll be back with you here in just a little while. When you're emotional, you're bound to make bad decisions, do things that you regret. Are we emotional people? Sure we are. There's nothing wrong with showing different emotions. But again, we have to control our emotions, not let them control us. Anything else that we want to say here from Genesis 37?
In verse 35, when it says all of his sons and daughters rose to comfort him, I was reading that the one daughter was Dinah, that it was supposedly talking about daughter-in-laws and granddaughters and all that.
It's
She only had one actor.
all of the females of the family, though Dinah was his daughter, as we would use that term. Sometimes the term grandchildren is not the same way that we use the term grandchildren. But that's a good point. Anything else?
What you said about Reuben, if he had descended with the group when they were talking about putting Joseph in the pit, might have made the world a difference, but instead it seemed like it was more of a mob mentality. Yeah, that sounds good, let's do it.
Yep. If we get around folks that are gung-ho to do whatever it is, if we're not careful, we can be caught right up in right or wrong. And we see that a lot. All right, let's look at chapter 37. Who is Judah?
He's the fourth son.
Okay, he's another son. He's another son. And what we're going to see are just terrible things after terrible things after terrible things that are recorded here in chapter 37. It begins that Judah departed from his brothers. He visited a certain Adulamite whose name was Hira. And he saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua. That's the Canaanite man. And he married her and went into her. Now, do you see anything right there that just jumps out at you? He married a Canaanite woman. So we got one thing that's, I'm going to say strike one. So she conceived and bore a son and called his name She conceived again and bore a son and called his name Onan. And she conceived yet again and bore a son and called his name Shelah. He was at Chesbid when she bore him. Now that's in the, I don't think I put a map up there, but that's in the same region that we're talking about, Chesbid, that we've looked at around Shechem and Dothan in that general area. Verse 6. Judah took a wife for her firstborn, and her name was Tamar. What about the first son? Wicked. Wicked in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord he kills him. We're not told. But we know about his daddy. We know some things about his daddy. Really, he was a wicked man too. And then it says, and Judah said to Onan, go into your brother's wife and marry her and raise up an heir to your brother. Now, was that something that was uncommon or was that something that was common? That was just very common. As a matter of fact, the law of Moses hasn't been given, but in the law of Moses, that's part of the law. But that was something that was expected. If a husband died, then the next brother would go in and she would marry her and should have a child. Now, The first child, let me see how I want to ask this. The first child would be considered the heir of the brother who had died. And then the other children would be considered an heir of that particular person. And so, you know, I don't know what all Judah was thinking, but Onan, I'm going to get it right here. I'm going to get to the right one. Onan's the one Onan is the one that's told to go do that. And again, we're not told, but with that information in mind, that may very well have bore a part in it. Verse 9 says, he knew that the heir would not be his. It came to pass when he went into his brother's wife that he emitted on the ground, lest he should give an heir to his brother. And the next verse just simply says what he did displeased the Lord. And so he was killed. And so Judah says to Tamar, his name, he has, well, we'll read this verse. He has a third son, but what's the problem with the third son? Too young. Too young. Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow in your father's house till my son Shelah is grown. For he said, lest he also die like his brothers. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. So what is the promise? You wait till this third son of mine is grown, and then I'll give him to you. He didn't.
It's interesting that even at this point, he's in his mind blaming Tamar for the deaths of both of his sons, when in fact it's what both of his sons have done themselves that are the problem, not Tamar. Now I can understand from a father's perspective, he may think this woman is, two of my sons are already done her in. but the fact of the matter is that it was his boys that were the problem, not her.
And you know, it's pretty easy sometimes to put the blame somewhere else than where it belongs. It's so easy to do that. It's very convenient to do that. All right, now in the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. He was comforted. He went up to his sheep. He went up to sheep shear. That's right, sheep shears at Timnah. One translation says to shear his sheep. I guess that's the same thing. It is the same. And his friend Hira, the Adulamite. And so Tamar hears about this. Now time has passed. I don't know how much time, but enough time has passed that he should have already done what he said he was going to do with his third son. And so Tamar, she goes up to where Judah's going to pass through. It says to Timnah to shear his sheep. So she puts on a widow's garment, puts on her widow's garments. And I don't know what all that is, but I do know she did take them off. What is a widow's garment? It's obviously something that demonstrates mourning, and we usually associate that with black. She'd been wearing it, you're right, she'd been wearing it a long time. So she took that off, she covered herself with a veil and wrapped herself and sat in an open place which was on the way to Timnah, for she saw that Shelah was grown and she was not given him as a wife. Judah's not carried out his promise. Now, what she's doing is wrong. I mean, it's just wrong after wrong after wrong. Well, we've read that. When Judah saw her, he thought, here's a harlot. Now, if I'm correct in saying that word there, harlot, means somebody who It's just, there was sometimes you sold yourself and sometimes you didn't sell yourself. Well, she wasn't a harlot in the sense that she was selling herself, though she did receive something in return. He didn't realize what was taking place. So he turns by the way to her. Please let me come into you, for he did not know that she was the daughter-in-law. So she said, what will you give me that you may come into me? Now, he didn't know who it was, but he was doing something that he should not have done. And so what does he promise he's going to give her? I'll give you a young goat from my flock. And then what does she say? I need a pledge, but till you get that goat to me, I need a pledge. And so what is the pledge? He asked, what shall I give you? Your signet, your cord or bracelet, and your staff.
Things to identify.
There you go. He gave it to her, went into her, and she conceived by him. So he just kind of goes on his merry way. She arose, went away, and laid aside her veil and put on the garments of her widowhood. Judah sends the young goat to her, but what's the problem? Can't find her. They're not able to find this woman. Verse 21, he asked, where is the harlot who was here in this open place? And the answer was, there wasn't a harlot there. There wasn't a harlot there. So he returned to Judah and said, I cannot find her. Also, the men of the place said there was no harlot in this place. Then Judah said, let her take them for herself, lest we be shamed. For I sent this young goat and you have not found her. So he didn't want the goat. I wonder why he didn't want the goat back. He just left the goat. You think he might have been trying to just cover his tracks? He was embarrassed, that's right. Verse 24 says, and it came to pass about 3 months after that Judah was told, saying, Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has played the harlot. Furthermore, she is with child by harlotry. And Judah, being the man of integrity and righteousness, he says, bring her out and let her be burned. I'm going to tell you, when you do things that are wrong, unless you make it right, it's going to haunt you and haunt you and haunt you and haunt you. When she was brought out, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, by the man to whom these belong, I am with child. And she said, I want you just to look here at what I have and see if what I have belongs to you. Verse 26, Judah acknowledged him. And he says, she has been more righteous than I, because I did not give her to Shelah, my son. And he never knew her again. Well, he got that right. He got that right. Now it came to pass at the time for giving birth that, behold, twins were in her womb. So it was when she was giving birth that the one put out his hand, midwife put a scarlet thread on, bound it around his hand, saying, this one came out first. Then it happened as he drew his hand back that the brother came out unexpectedly. And she said, how did you break through? This breach be upon you. Therefore his name was Perez, or Perez. Afterward his brother came out who had the scarlet thread of the hand, and his name was called Zerah. I just have a little footnote down there to remind myself that the lineage of Christ comes through Perez or Perez. Matthew 1 verse 3.
There's a little parallel between Judah and David. Because when Judah is absolutely called, he knows, I'm called. He fesses up and says, and that's what David did.
That's right.
He said, that's me, I did We're trying to rationalize it.
Right. I think that's right. And another parallel between those two is, when did they acknowledge that?
After they were
When they were caught,
confronted.
when they were confronted. All right, our time is up. We may spend a little time